Forbes Books presents Sustainable Leadership and Disruptive Growth with David Radlow. Transformation for a new and better world. Here's David.
Joining me this week is Joe Meyer, the CEO and founder of ExecThread, a venture capital-backed startup that has built a platform that enables executives throughout the world to discover unpublished senior-level job opportunities. After selling one of his companies to Apple, he founded ExecThread 6 years ago, and now it's the largest global aggregator of unpublished executive-level job opportunities. Joe, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing just great. I wanted to go way back, where you've developed your skill set at eBay, going into Quigo and HopStop before getting to ExecThread. It looks like you were brought in to head publisher services and scale revenue from 5 to 50 million in 2 years with executed scalable publishing deals and proactive partner organizations. Could you take us back as you apparently came at the apex of incubation and acceleration? How would you utilize your strategy, people, and processes to accelerate growth?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, as you said, it was way back. It was probably going back 15 years ago at this point. I had just moved to New York City to head up publisher development and business development for Quigo, which was at the time a competitor to Google AdSense. And I had known quite a bit about performance-based marketing and lead generation from my days at eBay, where I was a general manager prior to Quigo. And in fact, Quigo wanted to take a playbook out of eBay's script, and they recruited probably around a half a dozen senior managers, including myself, out of eBay to help them scale their marketplace of contextual advertising, which is a marketplace connecting the buyers and sellers of contextual advertising, meaning publishers on one side of the house, big media companies, and performance-based marketers on the other. And I was responsible for going out and getting new publishers into the network, Fox News, ESPN.com, ABC Network, and the like. And then I was also responsible for working with those publishers to get them to sell ads into the platform. And then I was also responsible for the group that proactively account managed and optimized those relationships. So it was really responsible for the entire revenue of the marketplace. The nice thing about it is every time we brought on a large new publisher, the network grew exponentially. And then we optimized from there, which was really all about aesthetic yield optimization and optimizing where and how the ads appeared on the page to increase engagement in those ads and increase click-through rates.
What kind of opportunities or challenges did you have?
To be quite honest, and I've done this twice in my career now, competing against Google is it's a double-edged sword. You know, being a distant number two to Google in any one of their categories is not a bad place to be because, you know, you're kind of in the right territory, if you know what I mean. But your competitor is Google. So I did it at Quigo, where Google AdSense was our largest competitor by far. And I did it again at HopStop, where Google Maps was our largest competitor by far. But big companies like Google leave a lot of breadcrumbs on the table, if you know what I mean.
Okay. On exit, can you explain the importance of post-merger integration, PMI, and steps taken to avoid loss of business income and continued acceleration of growth?
Yeah, absolutely. This is actually a topic near and dear to my heart. My last two companies have been acquired. Quigo was acquired by AOL. HopStop was acquired by Apple. And in both of those instances, I stayed on, as did my teams, to manage post-merger acquisition and integration efforts. And we did that not only because they made it worthwhile for us to do, but more importantly, we wanted to make sure that the acquired assets were successfully integrated into the acquiring company. And to do that, you need people that know quite a bit about the company being acquired and the processes and the approaches and the infrastructure and the systems. So in both cases, I stayed anywhere from 2 to 3 years post-acquisition to really run post-acquisition efforts and integration efforts. All too many times when startups get acquired, management runs for the hills and, are exiting as soon as the ink dries. I take a different philosophy. The opportunity to work with that acquired company to ensure that the acquisition is successful a couple of years down the line, I think is as important as doing the deal itself.
That's great. With Hopstop.com, you were president and CEO. You started in April 2009. Where was the company at that time in terms of incubation of the value proposition tied to the competitive analysis and strategy?
Yeah, I mean, to be quite honest, I'll be very direct. The company had some great assets. It was the early entrant into the pedestrian navigation and multimodal routing space, which is really just a fancy way of saying a combination of walking and transit directions, door to door. Hopstop invented that category, and then Google copycatted it and integrated it into Google Maps. That being said, Hopstop was not very scalable at the point I joined. I took over the company for the founder. We were only in a few markets, and we were probably 6 months away from going under in terms of how much cash we had in the bank versus how much income we had coming in through revenue. So I had to do a quick turnaround and get that company to be profitable and cash flow positive very quickly. But more importantly, I needed to figure out a way to scale it, which we ultimately did. And we went from around a half a dozen markets when I joined the company to 2 years later, we were in over 600 global markets. A humongous Herculean data management challenge, data integration challenge, data normalization challenge, and user experience challenge. And we did it on, on sparse resources. We made a lot happen with a little. Fortunately, we did a good job of it, and Apple came and acquired us not too further along.
Yeah, I am going to go focus on a little bit on the test markets as you came out of test markets, and then you made your changes as you started accelerating. What kind of changes did you make specifically, and what kind of failures did you have, and how would you be able to pivot and react to that?
Yeah, so operationally and HR-wise, I needed to recruit a whole new team. The team that was there was not the right team to take the company to the next level and beyond. Those are tough decisions to make, but they have to be made, and that's why I was brought in to make those tough decisions. We needed to, I often say, as we were flying the plane, we needed to restructure our data model, which is really hard to do, meaning the data model was not, underneath the hood, was not properly structured from day one. So we had to rewrite the entire data model underneath, that enabled and propelled the whole platform. And then we had to find sources of transit data from third parties that we could ingest into our platform to facilitate that multimodal routing experience. So, I attacked it from an HR and processes perspective. I attacked it from an engineering, server-side engineering perspective, as well as from a data management and data integration perspective.
That's a very quick, hard, tactical, and strategic ride into operational excellence, scaling by 250% from 2009, 2011, and exiting 4 years after you become president at a 500% ROI. If you be kind enough to impart some of your wisdom that you had during that period, and what was it? Do you see it as just you laid it out and you just got it done, or any type of fortune you had during there? What were the factors? And that's just a very, very quick, fast grand slam.
Yeah, I mean, I attribute a lot of it to the founder. He was the original visionary, and he came up with the concept, and he invented that category, that concept of attaching walking and transit directions across multiple transit agencies to facilitate that door-to-door seamless experience, which today we take for granted because it's in Google Maps, it's in Apple Maps, for example. But, rewind the clock 15 years ago, it didn't even exist. Mobile phones didn't even exist in terms of smartphones. So, he was the original visionary, and I give him a lot of credit. I also give him a lot of credit for handing over the reins of the company to a operator like myself, who is focused more on scaling from early stages onward, and more focused on, putting the right team in place and the right infrastructure in place to enable it, which again, the team is what it's all about. As I mentioned before, I had to recruit a whole new team. I recruited a lot of folks I worked with at eBay and Quigo to join me at Hopstop. And, that really was, at the end of the day, the most important decision I ever made.
During that time, what was your board and advisory board like, and what kind of input did they have in addition to the founder?
Yeah, so I really enjoyed my board at Hopstop. It was the founder, who was the chairman of the company. And he had a nice balance of letting me run the company and not micromanaging me, but also inserting his opinion when and where and as appropriate. And it was a good kind of yin yang, Batman and Robin sort of combination. We also had two other individuals on the board, both of which were investors. One who was an investment banker who was very hands-on, but he was hands-on not from a financial perspective as much from a supportive perspective. He was kind of a mentor to me, if you know what I mean, and a coach. And then we also had the founder of Quigo, which was the company I was at prior to that, was also on the board. And he is a tech visionary. He started and has successfully exited 3 tech startups in his career. And he is really a luminary in the industry. His name is Yaron Galai, another mentor to me.
Just on following it, to grow that fast, did you have any issues in sort of making sure that when you initially did your models, I'm sure you didn't say you're going to grow this fast, or maybe it was on the high-end model. Did you have any cash issues, or did you have any great banking relationships so it just wasn't an issue as you grew so fast?
In retrospect, we probably undercapitalized the company. We only raised a few $1,000,000 in total. But like I said, when I joined the company, I made sure that we got the company to profitability and cash flow positive and stayed there throughout the duration. And it makes a lot easier to run a company when you not only have cash in the bank, but you're building cash every month. In retrospect, could we and should we have raised more money? Probably, but I don't play Monday morning quarterback.
No, you did you hit the ball out of the ballpark, so that's outstanding. As we segue to ExecThread, you're currently founder and CEO. It's a premium peer-to-peer job sharing network, 50K high caliber business leaders, a passion project that dialed in on information sharing. Would you mind just talking about that, how you're able to, and what you saw dialing into that?
So I was at Apple post-acquisition of Hopstop, and I was getting approached by a number of executive recruiters for opportunities, as you would imagine. And all the opportunities that were coming across my desk were not opportunities I actually wanted to pursue. And unfortunately, there is no way to access premium career level, exec level opportunities because they're all hidden. They're not publicly posted. They're being worked on by thousands upon thousands of executive search firms who keep those opportunities confidential. And that problem of candidates not being able to access those opportunities efficiently or at all became very interesting to me. And I said, you know what? I'm not actually interested in leaving Apple to go get another job, but leaving Apple to go solve a big problem like that, that I think other people, other candidates view as a challenge and as an obstacle, that's exciting. So I left Apple to go start the company. I incubated it while I was at Apple as a passion project, as you said, but we quickly started gaining traction, and ExecThread members of the initial network started getting jobs from it, started getting interviews from it, started finding out about jobs they would have never found out about otherwise, and that gave me enough confidence to jump ship and start the company, which is now up to almost 100,000 members at this point.
Fabulous. Now, the only service in the world that offers scalable access to thousands of confidential and retained searches that are otherwise hidden or inaccessible. You're a leading aggregator of unpublishing executive job level opportunities, disrupting the standard way of job searching. How does the value proposition tie into your competitors in the market? What are you looking to do with this disruption?
To be quite honest, there's a lot of other job platforms out there, right? I think we know all of them, the ZipRecruiters, the Indeeds, the LinkedIns, the Glassdoors, the Career Builders, the Monsters, etc. The one big differentiation, though, versus ExecThread is they concentrate on jobs that are publicly available and accessible. ExecThread focuses on the hidden job market, jobs that are actually openings. There are requisitions out there for them now, but they never hit the job boards. Now, you might say, wow, how do you get access to those jobs? Well, that's a good question. We decided to crowdsource them, which means those same candidates who are getting approached by executive recruiters with these confidential opportunities, career opportunities, we are bringing them into the ExecThread network as members and saying to them, listen, if you let us know about jobs that you get approached for by recruiters but don't plan to pursue, we'll credit you for that. We'll give you points for that. And with those points, you can redeem those points to find out about jobs that other members of the community are submitting. So it's a quintessential give to get sort of model, pay it forward model where, hey, if I share what I know, then I get to find out what other people in the network know. And it's pretty powerful.
So really, you created a barter transaction network.
Correct.
Within your network.
Correct. I started with a couple of dozen people in my own network, 6 years ago to see if they might be interested in, let's just say, trading, informally trading career opportunities that they were aware of. And then I quickly realized, you know what? There's a willingness to do this. There's a demand for it. Let's create a platform and a system and a user experience to facilitate it.
I've got to ask you, trying to get around when you feel you are out of testing phase and accelerating growth and you're a growth accelerator, or is this situation where it's an ever evolving situation because the way you're going about it is so different and new to customers' needs?
I think you go through phases, and I think most of the phases until you hit hypergrowth, if you're even lucky enough to hit hypergrowth, are in that evolutionary state where you're constantly evolving, constantly morphing, and constantly getting to that next level, and constantly, reinventing yourself in many ways. But if you are fortunate enough to identify an opportunity that gets traction, then you double down on that opportunity and you constantly improve that opportunity. You iterate upon that opportunity and you evolve it.
How has been the reaction since you went last year to the freemium model? Please explain what freemium is, how many members you mentioned, the 100,000, and how things have scaled.
So it's interesting. This is one of the few times where you could charge for a service and it improves the user experience. And what I mean by that is up until 13, 14 months ago, we were not charging for our service. It was strictly a point-enabled system where you could earn points by submitting jobs that you're aware of and refer peers into the network, in which case we would award you with points. And then you would trade in those points to find out about the hidden information associated with other jobs that other members are contributing. But you couldn't pay for that access. We kept on getting requests from our members, from ExecThread members saying, you know what, I really want to get faster, quicker, more scalable access to your platform. Can you facilitate that for me? So ultimately we decided to sell the points. We decided to sell points and a lot of members started buying points. But then they started, not only buying points, but they ran out of points quickly. So then we said, you know what, this is probably conducive to a subscription-based model where we give you unfettered and unlimited access to all of the hidden information in exchange for a monthly fee. And that's what we morphed to. The freemium aspect of it is that it's still free to join ExecThread. It's free to sign up, sign in, search, browse, filter, keyword search, receive emails from us with jobs, browse the entire user experience, read about job opportunities, career opportunities, all the way up to the board level. But if you want to untap or uncover the hidden information of these confidential jobs, i.e. name of the hiring company, name of the hiring manager and contact information, name of the executive recruiters working on those searches plus their contact information, to uncover that really juicy confidential information, you need to be what we call a full access member, which is a subscriber, and hence the freemium model. It's portions of the service are free, but other portions of the service are behind a paywall. And since we implemented that, a healthy percentage of our 100,000 members have upgraded to become full access members. And we've gotten, a lot of positive feedback on that because now those members, when they need the information, they can get it at their fingertips at any time.
That's great. Well, hang on, Joe. We have to stop right here. But coming up in the second part of my interview with Joe Meyer, the CEO and founder of ExecThread, Joe talks about the importance of being a purpose-driven leader.
I have not been afraid to speak my mind over the course of the last few years of running ExecThread and share my thoughts on what I think is important, whether it be social causes, political causes, economic causes, environmental causes, justice-related causes. It can't just be about business, but you have to figure out how to tie business into those causes so that businesses can be part of the solution.
To connect with David, go to davidradlow.com. David's book, Principles of Cartel Disruption, Accelerate and Maximize Performance, is now available wherever books are sold. This has been Sustainable Leadership and Disruptive Growth with David Radlow, a presentation of Forbes Books.